Story 1. I 20M cannot cope with the pain of losing my 20F partner, please help. My partner just broke up with me. I know I'm only young, and to many it may seem as though this can't be too serious, or that it was just young love lust. I really don't think this is the case. I have a deep, deep love for my partner, far deeper than any other connection I have ever had in my life, including my parents. I have had a rocky path, including abuse and neglect, social service involvement, bullying, loss of family members, severe depression, anxiety, and close brushes with suicide. I have worked very hard to escape and try to improve my situation, which has been quite successful in allowing me the privilege of a brighter future. But my future has never felt bright. No amount of work dedication has ever made me happy, because it is not who I am. I found happiness in my partner, who I fell in love with when we were both 18. We both made mistakes due to emotional immaturity, but got through them, and I love her unconditionally. I would trade anything on earth for an extra minute with her. Socializing has not typically come naturally to her. She is social, though it is just something that she has to artificially think about and make an effort with. This, in my opinion, alongside a more sheltered upbringing, has led to some naivety regarding intentions of other people. There's a guy she had been friends with for a while. I didn't know much about him as me and my partner are at different universities, but our terms are short so we don't have to be apart too much. One night, when she was out partying, she got drunk, completely and utterly blackout drunk. He shared a kiss with her, and my world turned upside down. It shattered the blissful and perfect lens through which I saw her. It made me question the kind of person I was with. Here's what happened, from the small amounts she can remember. He and her were dancing together separately from the group. She was being friendly, but only friendly, and danced with her eyes closed as she was getting lost in the music. He leaned in and kissed her, misinterpreting the eyes being closed as her intending to kiss him. Originally, she felt shock, then felt physically ill due to the alcohol. Whilst going through all of these emotions, her natural reaction was to kiss back, as she had only properly kissed me before, so had no reason to pull away from a kiss. Then, after 5 to 10 seconds of making out, she pulled away. She said she may have chosen to kiss back for a few seconds as when it happened, me and her had fallen out. And this kiss made her feel wanted, which she really desired because me and her hadn't been in much contact for a few days at the time, though we were very much still together. Like I say, it was a fallout. Emotionally, I worked really hard, understood that she was partially a victim in the situation, and tried to move forward as a couple with her. However, my unconditional love had turned conditional. I no longer made her coffee for the pure joy of making her happy. I implicitly, without realizing, expected her to also put a huge amount of effort in to prove to me that she loves me and values me as her partner. But our relationship had always functioned on a basis of me being the one who planned romantic gestures and actively worshipped the ground she walked on. She loved me in her own, different way. Unfortunately, about 5 months after the kiss, I came to a conclusion that the way I was being treated was not what I deserved. She had been unsure about us as a couple for a while, and threatened to break up with me on a semi-regular basis at all hours of the night. I had previously been okay with her being unsure, as I loved her unconditionally and believed in our connection. But my conditional love decided it was not fair on myself. Also, for the past few months, she had been considering us taking time apart from each other, too. So, I asked for some time apart, saying that I wanted her to hopefully realize she was sure about being with me, because I was sure about wanting to be with her. She protested, saying that we were happy and didn't want time apart. I explained that I didn't want it either. However, she had threatened me with this and breakups every week for months, so I honestly don't think it was avoidable, and it seemed like the healthy option. That was a few weeks ago. She has called me a few times to say she misses me and is struggling. To which I replied the same, and that I was not going anywhere, but that this was simply to make our relationship a bit healthier. Today, though, she called and said she doesn't want me back. For two main reasons. The distance is too painful for her different universities. She has not had any experience with any other guys, and doesn't want to regret not living life to the fullest. She also said because of this lack of experience she can't know if our connection is special or not, as she has no comparison. She said the only way we could possibly be together in the future is if I am okay with her exploring connections and physical intimacy with other guys for a while. Us not being together in that period. The pain of all of this is what led me to realize my love had become conditional. I explained this and begged her to consider giving us another chance, pleading that she would not regret it because I had identified the problem in the fact that my love had unknowingly turned conditional, and that I was so ready for it to be unconditional again. All true. She said no, that she had already given too many chances and wasted too much of her life, and that there was nothing I could do to fix the two problems she had laid out. I said that if she just shared a couple of kisses with other guys, I could not guarantee but would try my best to get over it and move on with her, if she still wanted that after the experiences, but explained that it would break me. I also stated that if anything more intimate were to happen, I knew the pain would be too much for me to bear and move on from, because I could never do any of this to her. I am in pieces. Deep down, I never thought anything could break us up. I am confused, shocked, and in desperate need of help. We only have to cope with distance for 2.5 more university terms. A term is 8 weeks. We have already gotten through 6 terms, and I am willing to travel every week to be with her. And the whole experience thing is killing me. Although she has denied it. I suspect her friends have been negative influences, as most of them have also done similar things with their previous partners. But I truly did not think this was the kind of person she was, and I have given her 2.5 years of my life. I'm dying inside. I have built all of my happiness around her, because that is the kind of person I am, and she has also demanded a big majority of my time, which I have happily given. We were like soulmates, inseparable. I think that if she gets to the end of this term, 3.5 weeks left, and changes her surrounding influences to instead being her lovely, more mature parents, there is a chance she may have a change of heart. Is there anything I can do or say to fix this situation before it is too late? Before she has experiences. She is the love and light of my life. Please help. I am scared and alone. I promise to reply to comments, and keep everyone updated if anything changes. Again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for taking the time to read this. Story 2. My mom is pissed her long-term boyfriend isn't invited to my wedding. My mom just called me to ask when she and her long-term boyfriend 58M, let's call him Dave, should arrive at my wedding venue. My wedding is in a month and I sent out wedding invitations 2 months ago. My mom's invitation was only addressed to her and had no +1 on it. She RSVP'd right away and never mentioned to me that Dave wasn't on the invitation. I thought it was some kind of miracle because I was expecting to have a giant fight with her. When she never even mentioned it, I thought I might be in the clear. Now I wish I had clarified with her. Some backstory on why Dave isn't invited and why I hate him with all of my being. Dave has been in my life since I was 6 years old. I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty confident there was some overlap between Dave and Mom's relationship and my dad and Mom's. I always felt weird going over to Dave's. He always stunk of cigarette smoke and I always felt like he didn't want me there. When I was 9, we moved away to a much more expensive part of the country and my dad couldn't follow because he couldn't afford it. We moved for Dave's job and that angered me because although my parents had 50-50 custody of me, I only saw my dad for a total of 3 weeks a year. When I was 10, I made a joke to my mom as we were driving home from school and she laughed. I said I was going to tell Dave the joke because I knew it would make him mad. My mom slammed on the brakes and turned faster on me than I could blink. She started screaming that I should never do anything to Dave just because I knew he wouldn't like it. Good lesson, terribly executed. She then yelled at me to get out of the car and that I was going to walk home, which was at least 30 minutes. I got out and she sped away before I fully shut the door. I sat on the side of the road sobbing for 20 minutes, but she never came back. I decided to walk to my grandparents' house, which was 45 minutes in the opposite direction of home. They weren't home, so I had no choice but to walk the now 1h and 15-minute walk home. I had been gone for over 2 hours when I finally walked through the door exhausted. My mother glanced up from the book she was reading on the couch and that was the most acknowledgement I got from her for the rest of the day. When I was 11, I was sitting in the family room cross-stitching a new hobby I had recently picked up, so I was spending a lot of time doing it, trying to get good, when I heard Dave call my name. I acknowledged him and he walked into the room and said, "I figured I'd find you in your natural habitat, the couch, since you're such a fat couch potato. Anyway, I need you to help me in the backyard." He then turned and walked away. I sat in stunned silence for a moment before bursting into tears and running to my room. I was being bullied at school for my weight, but I was trying to not take it to heart because kids can be cruel. But now all my worst fears were affirmed by an adult. Hours later, my mom came in angry with me for not going out and helping Dave when he asked me to. Between sobs, I explained to my mom what he had said to me. She shook her head and told me to get over it and that it was just Dave's sense of humor. I didn't eat anything for the next 4 days until I finally caved and ate whatever I could find in the kitchen. I hated myself for being so weak, and this kicked off an ED that I only started to recover from when I moved out at 18. I never received an apology from either of them. The man was also a drunk. When my mom would work nights, I hid in my room listening to him scream, swear and throw things around the house. One day he backed into our gate and I heard him bashing on it with a hammer for hours one night, which terrified me. Thankfully he never touched me. When I was 13, my mom arrived at my school in tears telling me she had broken up with Dave. I broke into the biggest smile and told her how happy I was for her and that we could finally be free and happy. I'll admit it was an insensitive thing to say, but I couldn't contain how elated I was. We moved into my grandparents' home and it was the best month of my life. Then my grandparents decided to take a 2-month trip across the country, and that's when Dave started to try and win my mom back. It started with flowers and chocolates at the door. Then he would buy a full week of groceries. My mom was starting to fall for it, but not fully. Until he pulled out his End game, inviting me to do shit. This man had never taken an interest in me before. But now he was going on and on to my mom about how much he missed being my dad and how much he loved me. When I heard that, I wanted to strangle him. He never loved me and he was not my dad, nor was he even a father figure. He knew how much I love whales, so he booked a whale watching tour for just the two of us. When my mom told me, I flat out refused to go. This resulted in me being punished. I had to clean the entire 3-story house from top to bottom, and I wasn't allowed to see any of my friends or do any of my hobbies until I apologized. That never happened, and I was officially grounded for 4 months because he kept planning things and I kept refusing to go. They eventually got back together and have been ever since. The man went back to being annoyed at my existence and never attempted any more one-on-one time again. There were so many other things that happened, but I've already made this post way too long as it is. So as you can imagine, Dave is the last person I want at my wedding. When my mom called me, I thought at first Dave was just dropping her off. But nope. Not only did my mom just assume there was a typo with the invitation, but she also thought Dave would be walking me down the aisle. Excuse me. My dad, the only parent who actually cared about me, would be walking me down the aisle. Mom said my dad didn't deserve it because unlike Dave, he wasn't in my life that much. And whose fault is that? Not my dad's. The conversation with my mom can be summed up as an all-out screaming match on both our parts, and my mom telling me she wouldn't be attending if Dave wasn't allowed to come. I just said fine, don't come, and hung up the phone. My mom proceeded to blow up my phone with calls and texts saying I didn't love her, and if I loved her I would let the only dad I ever truly knew to perform his fatherly duty of walking me down the aisle. She started bashing my fiancé, saying he was brainwashing me and she knew her sweet little daughter was in there somewhere and I just had to let her out. I stopped responding after this. After being ignored for 5 hours, my mom took to Facebook to paint this sob story of how I was pushing her and Dave out for no good reason and that they were heartbroken they had raised such an awful woman. Her post pretty much went along in the same vein as her texts to me. I simply chose not to engage with her, and when family and friends contacted me to ask what was going on, I simply told them the truth. Most of them, except a great aunt and a few of my mom and Dave's friends, are on my side, but this is all getting exhausting. No matter what I say, nothing is getting through to this woman and I just want it all to stop. Please, any advice on how to handle this going forward would be amazing. My fiancé has already suggested hiring security for the wedding. He's been my beacon through all of this and I'm so grateful for that. But any advice would be amazing. Story 3. AITAH for wanting to tell her BF she cheated on him. 23 have been with my boyfriend 23. We've been dating since high school for about 6 years. We went to different schools and had our own friends, but we really never hung out with anybody like that, just us since we graduated. I found out I was pregnant and we were excited to welcome our baby girl. When I was 9 months pregnant, I found an order of flowers for another girl who I recognized was a friend of his from high school. This girl was a social media friend for me and him, but I had never met her. Her mom would make homemade wings and we would occasionally buy from her. A few months earlier, my boyfriend shared with me that this girl asked if he could train her at the gym. A few people had asked my BF since he is very gym fit. I trusted him and said that sounds like a good side hustle since the baby is coming soon. They never ended working out at the gym, but that how they started talking. After finding that order of flowers, I went through the rest of his phone and deleted messages, deleted pictures and managed to log in his Instagram. I found proof that they were having an affair. I was devastated since we were 2 weeks away from receiving our baby girl. I didn't really have the time to make a decision or grieve my relationship since I wanted the perfect family of 3 when my baby girl came to this world. I also had just quit my job to be a stay-at-home mom since that was our plan, which didn't really give me an option to move out and kind of felt forced to stay with him since I have nowhere else to go and I didn't want my baby girl to not have her dad with her the first few days of life and I honestly wanted him to help out. This girl who was also our same age was in serious 9-year relationship and they have a 1-year-old daughter which is why I trusted my BF with her. A week after I found out, I confronted her through Mesa telling her that it was partly her fault since she knew we expecting and continued talking to him, even though my boyfriend opened the door at the end of the day. I had also asked her to be up straight with me and tell me everything that happened between them since my boyfriend was being very vague about the situation. Both my boyfriend and her said that they never slept together. They just relied on each other and told each other problems that they had. In the messages I read between them they flirted and sexed a lot, but I do believe that they never slept together. Throughout the months went by, my boyfriend would tell me little by little details that I would ask about what happened between them and the more he tells me the more I get upset even though I keep asking. I honestly do not trust him and every week we bring up her name due to a fight about something even though we're both trying to move on from this. I never told this girl's BF because I didn't want to deal with the possibility of a confrontation with the BF and mine of while caring for a newborn. I know this girl owed me nothing and that the one that failed me was my BF, but since I can't take it out him cause I have no other option with the circumstances of life but to give it another try. I think it's unfair that I was stripped away from the happiness I had in the days to receive my daughter. All I remember is the betrayal from my BF and how he had the heart to talk to her for 3 months. They would text and FaceTime and talk on the phone frequently. They even meet person twice at a Target far from town and at a Walmart parking lot. My BF confessed to me that she actually fell in love with him and that he didn't since he saw no future. Since finding out I break out crying at least once a week since I really didn't have the time to be mad at him when I found out. I feel really depressed and I am sad. I am not just a normal new mom enjoy her baby. Like I said, I think it's unfair how my family and happiness is struggling right now for something they both caused months ago. I feel like she caused the damage and then went back to her normal old life. She never had the consequences or fight with her partner for what she did, and honestly I feel like he deserves to know. If the situation were reversed I would want to know. I am blocked on social media and I am assuming she blocked me so I wouldn't tell him. I ended up finding his number online and been debating of telling him what happened. It's been 6 months since I found out and I still very unhappy, and I guess I won't tell him as revenge so she could deal with the same collateral damage that is left on a relationship and how different everything is when something like this is found out. Would I be wrong to tell her BF? My partner says it's wrong and doesn't want me to do it since he knew her and he says I would be destroying another family. She knew we were expecting and had the balls to fall for my men, and I believe she destroyed her own family. I would have to confess to her of buying my partner, and I am just scared that this girl's BF will want to come after mine and that he ends up finding out I called him and told him. I also question if she told him a half-assed truth and the real deal.